Hello everybody, welcome to the Wonky Angle, where I talk about electronic music, both new and old. And today I'm talking about the new album from Squarepusher, Be Up a Hello. Squarepusher, Tom Jenkinson. I should hope we're no stranger to this IDM legend on this channel. I reviewed this guy's entire discography a while back. I've done in-depth videos on all his previous studio albums, did a video ranking my top 10 favorite songs from him, and another ranking his albums from worst to best, all during a pretty long break he had between putting out any new music. His last album, Damn McGinn Furies, came out back in 2015. Needless to say, I'm a pretty big fan of his. He's one of my favorite artists in all of electronic music. Ordinarily, at this point, I just direct you towards the link to my playlist of all the videos I did on his stuff in the description and leave the intro at that. But given how this is my first time reviewing a project of his while it's still brand new, I haven't done an in brief segment on him yet, so for those who don't feel like sitting through all those old videos, I'll quickly go down his studio album discography so far. Cheap production, but great spooky jazzy atmosphere. Classic. My favorite album of his, also classic. Straight Miles Davis-esque psychedelic jazz album, big personal favorite. Companion to the previous album, it has Iambic 5 poetry on it. It's his acid and jazz album. Doesn't combine the two styles, just puts them next to each other, but still pretty solid. One of his craziest and most intense projects. Never been huge on it personally, but I love my Red Hot Car. B-sides to the previous album and a live concert of that album too. Has its moments, I guess, but honestly it's something you need to go out of your way for. His best sounding project, probably. Wish he'd bring this jazzier style back. Love the melodies and marginally poppier flares of this one. Impressive mix of lots of genres that doesn't always sound that great, but is still worth the experience. Weird vocoder lounge pop side project that's also pretty poorly mastered, but I still like. Mix of his usual drum and bass style with more modern EDM influences that sound surprisingly really freaking good. Basically go plastic again with better, cleaner production, but more forgettable tracks, aside from Store Eyeglass, which I still love. Which brings us to here. So, it's been quite a while since we got a new proper Squarepusher album. I do always look forward to something new out of him. All his albums have had their own unique flavor to them and have been interesting in their own ways. While I wouldn't classify any of his albums as bad, though, I don't love all of them. How much personal enjoyment I get out of any given project of his can be a bit of a toss-up. There are some incredible ones, but not all of them are great. But hey, I'm always game to hear something new from this guy, so hopefully it turned out well. I didn't hear any of the teaser tracks, just a few really short snippets. They sounded like a throwback to his old drum and bass days and covered in old acid synths. Which was pretty cool, but that's all I had to go on. So what did we get with Be Up a Hello? I kinda got mixed thoughts on this one. This is probably his least creative album to date. There's nothing on this album that he hasn't already done before to some extent, and that was kind of disappointing to me, since one of the things that I most enjoy about Squarepusher is how he's continually reinvented himself and tried new things with every new album. Even Damn McGinn Furies, even if it's basically just a modern reboot of Go Plastic, I would still be able to recognize its sound from a distance and identify a given track as being from that album. It had its own feel despite a lack of originality. Be Up a Hello does technically also have its own feel, but only barely. It's unabashedly a retro throwback all the way through, no modern flares, everything's trying to sound like old tracks of his like Tomorrow World and Planetarium. Well, really those two tracks in particular. Fast-paced amen breaks and other breakbeats we've heard before, lots of layers of acid synths and melodic flares that aren't that far a cry from Hello Everything or Eufabulum, if not nearly as catchy as either of those. I mean, he's not really pushing the envelope at all with this project. But is it fun to listen to? Yeah, it is fun to listen to. I mean, I love Tomorrow World and Planetarium. I do not mind more of that kind of stuff. I mean, if you've been disappointed with Jenkinson's last couple of projects and just want a simple return to his older style, you basically got it here. And he still does that style very well. It's crazy and unrelenting in exactly the way you'd hope for out of him. I still enjoyed listening to it all the way through. It's sure to be a fan pleaser. Just, I don't think I would really place it among my personal favorites from him to date. In terms of individual tracks, there's not much to break down, really. There's unfortunately no track here that, like, immediately struck a chord with me in the same way as Store Eyeglass or Angel Integer or 4001 or one of those. There's no tune or melody here that just stuck out to me as memorable or catchy or will be sticking in my head like those. It all kind of ran together for me, and a lot of tracks kind of delivered the same sort of retro melodic acid breakbeat appeal. Some tracks focus on the more melodic side, like the first two tracks, Oberlove and Hit So New. The former had some cool, almost Pachelbel's Canon-esque chord progressions, and was a good way to pull me in from the outset. Some had fun just going balls-to-the-wall aggressive, most notably Speedcrank. That one went ridiculously hard and was a ton of fun whenever it came up. Definitely one of my favorites. But a lot of these tracks were kind of in between and had like a balance between that more melodic feel and the more aggressive feel. See all of the pre-album singles. I will say of the singles, I think Terminal Slam was probably my favorite, and then Nervelevers is pretty close behind. Both of them had like an undeniable rush to them that did in fact get me hyped up, even if the latter kinda sounded like it borrowed some melodies from Eufabulum. Vortrack though, I still like that one, I guess. A lot of cool use of reverb and parts. Though by that point in the album, not much stuck out about it to distinguish it from the other tracks here and really resonate with me. It was cool, but it was just kind of there. Mechrev Bass I also kind of wish I liked more than I do. On one hand, it's the longest track, it has the most substance, it does all the same things that Vortrack does and better. But it always just kind of becomes part of Terminal Slam without me noticing it's there. And there are two much-needed beatless tracks to break up the sound of the project, one more melodic and Detroit People Mover. The melodies of that one really sound like Planetarium, could almost hum that melody over it. And the closer, 80 Ondula, is kind of spookier and more dissonant. Interestingly creepy note to go out on. Both a very welcome addition to the track listing. And that's basically all I got. This isn't a project that offers much in the way of discussion material. I don't really have much to complain about when it comes to the fine details. It's all well produced and sounds good. Pacing-wise, it changes things up just enough to remain engaging and not let it sound gross stale. The length is just right too, 47 minutes, and it didn't feel like you needed any more or less material. It's a good album, but like, is this an early favorite of the year? No, not really. I didn't find it mind-blowing or incredible, it's all just kind of deja vu to me. If Squarepusher is gonna get me properly excited with Rehash, I'd kinda want him to bring back the jazz elements of his early work. The more melodic focus here is nice, but it wasn't better executed than Eufabulum or Hello Everything. Like, just on Eufabulum, for instance, I think the melodies and way more polished sound of that one just stuck out to me a lot more. Now, I can easily see someone disagreeing with me on this point and thinking that the less polished and more old-school acid-heavy textures of this album are more to its benefit. And for what it's worth, I do agree to some extent. I mean, I do always enjoy me some good old TB303 acid squelching. Not to mention, calling this album unpolished is just in comparison to Eufabulum in particular. That album was just scrubbed clean and shiny and sparkling, was borderline shocking coming after a stretch of albums in the Squarepusher catalog that were just not very well produced at all. Be Up a Hello is still in the upper tier of Squarepusher releases when it comes to like mixing and mastering. All these sounds are satisfying and hit hard in the right ways. There's just no novelty to it, nothing really surprising about it. I thought it was fun on first listen, but with more repeat visits, it's slowly starting to develop that same feeling I get out of Aphex Twin's Collapse. Like, there's nothing really wrong with this, but do I really need this when he already has better stuff just like it? I don't know. Personally, I found it to be one of his least interesting projects. I doubt it's gonna stick with me in the long term, and I don't feel a strong urge to come back to it, but I'm sure other people will be a lot more into it than I was. But I still thought it was pretty cool. I guess I'm overall feeling a 6.7 out of 10 on it. But of course, this is just my opinion. You can feel free to disagree with it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts, so leave the comments in the comment thing down there. Shout out to my Patreon supporters. They're awesome people. You want to add yourself to that list or make me review something, link to my Patreon is in the description. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all for today. See you next time.